want Iguodala. Iguodala.
I'm proud of this thing. Some of my best work. All right, we'll bring that down. Welcome, everybody, to Trash Sports Take, episode number 18. We have a very special guest today. His name is Taj Dashaun. What's going on, Taj?
What's going on, fellas? Great to be here. Brian, did you produce that intro music, man? You said that's some of your best work. Did you make that?
I did. Yeah.
That shit is pretty fire, man. It had me over here bouncing around. So you're doing something right.
I enjoyed making that one, man. So what's new, man? How's it going? We've been talking for a while on LinkedIn. Been trying to set this up for a while, but life got in the way. So,
Yeah, it's actually been good because it gave me some time to listen to a few episodes. It was actually perfect the way it worked out. When we first connected, I downloaded a few episodes. Mm-hmm. And realistically, fellas, I'm the type of guy where I'm always listening to something like positive or trying to learn something and educate myself. But every now and then I just want to hear some guys talk some shit. So I tune into one of your episodes. And it's been good, though. Life is good. I'm out here in Austin, Texas. Business is growing, a lot of athletes being touched, a lot of good things opening up, and I'm excited. I have no complaints.
That's great, man. Great to hear. I've been listening to a lot of stuff that you've been on recently too. I love what you do, man. Like, your work is inspiring. It's great. So
thank you.
We're really happy to have you on. We are all big advocates of mental health, and I know you've spoken a lot about that. Why don't you introduce yourself and kind of take us through your college career at Stony Brook? And then, we'll talk about that and then just kind of move forward after that. So
for sure. That's a great starting point. I played corner and safety at Stony Brook. Stony Brook was not my first choice. Sorry to anybody from Stony Brook listening. I grew up on the West Coast. I grew up in the Inland Empire, San Bernardino County, which is like 45 minutes east of LA. So I wanted to go to a Pac-12 school. It was Pac-10 at the time still, but I was looking at ASU, University of Arizona, Colorado, Washington State. All those schools were expressing interest. Unfortunately, none of them pulled the trigger. So by the time my senior year came around, I was left with a handful of schools. Wasn't really digging any of them. But when I took my trip to Stony Brook, I was like, okay, this is cool. There's a train station on campus. Took you like 45 minutes to the heart of Times Square. And I was like, you know what? I think I can get down with this. So got to Stony Brook. It was culture shock at first. Like I said, I'm from the West Coast, being out there with not just New Yorkers, but Long Islanders, totally different breed of human being. So it took at least about a month or so just to adapt and get used to it. But, having great teammates, it made it a lot easier. Those guys are still some of my best friends to this day. Just to kind of keep a long story short, I didn't have a great career at Stony Brook. And then that comes down to a few things. Everybody blames the politics, but at the end of the day, my attitude was pretty shitty. I think that I was so used to being the guy that when I got to Stony Brook and I was just a number, I didn't handle it well as a young 18-year-old kid. And that kind of set the tone for the next couple of years of my career. I didn't really start maturing until my junior or senior year. But by then, I had 3 different defensive coordinators and 4 different DB coaches while I was there. So you know how that goes. They bring in their guys. So I never really got a shot. But by the time my senior year came around, I was like, you know what? I left it all on the field. And I was proud of the effort that I put in, which is the only thing that matters. I was happy with, what I was doing when I looked in the mirror. And so that's it. I came off a shitty career at Stony Brook and moved back home to the West Coast. And I found myself in a very weird spot, just, living on my own on scholarship for 4 years. Now I'm back home in my childhood bedroom, looking at all my little Pop Warner trophies. And that was a really the beginning of my journey, so to speak, because that was a really dark time for me. But I'll just leave it right there for now.
Yeah, fair enough. I get it,
So
man. I get it.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
I have a question for you. How did you adapt to the weather in New
Oh
York
man.
coming from the West Coast?
I'll tell you right now, Dill, I never want to see snow again, ever. I don't ever want to, I live in Texas now. When I came back from school, eventually I moved to San Diego, which has beautiful weather, of course. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, San Diego is expensive. So my fiance and I, we moved out to Austin, Texas in March of this year. And just simply for the cost of living. And Austin's a great city, but the weather was tough. I remember the first day it snowed there, a couple of my teammates and I, who were also from California, we went outside and made snow angels. And then about 5 minutes later, we were like, all right, this is too damn cold. Let's go back inside. And then from there started hey, it's snowing outside. I'm not going to class today. I'm just going to sleep in a little bit. That's when that
Yeah,
type of mentality kicked over. I got over the snow pretty quick.
dude. We're all from Erie, Pennsylvania, so we totally get it.
Okay.
Yeah, we get tons of snow.
Yeah, I never want to see snow again in my life. So.
So of your time on the East Coast, though, was there what did you like about it over the West Coast? I mean, home is home. You clearly moved back out there because you prefer one to the other and it feels more comfortable. But is there anything that you wish you could have taken with you from the East Coast back to the West Coast?
That's a great question. Definitely some of those diners, I will say this. I learned to appreciate it. At first it was culture shock. Aside from the weather, which I don't think I ever got used to my entire time I was out there, but the people, I think people just not in New York, but on the East Coast in general, just have a different type of boldness. Everybody where I'm from in California is pretty laid back, but I think being out there and being around such like transparent and, tough ass East Coast people, it helped shape me and give me a different perspective on the world. And so that's one thing. Great food, great people. I think it honestly made me tougher. And I feel like it added, like I lost my softness out there, I guess you could say, and I mean that in a good way because I came back like ready for the world, so to speak. And the East Coast will do that to you, as you guys know.
Absolutely, man. I lived in New York for like 3 or 4 years. I know all about that, man.
Hard times.
It is, man. It is. So you said you went back home and you kind of went into a dark place. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I basically had an extended college. And I say that because I was going through so much emotional turmoil that I was trying to mask it with just drinking all the time. I was back home with a lot of guys, a few other guys I played with in high school. They all went D1. And so we were all back home just trying to figure out what the hell we were doing. And basically, like Thursday through Sunday, we were out drinking. And so when I wasn't out drinking with my friends, I was locked up in my room, looking for jobs, but not really, because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just kind of on Indeed, just like scrolling through stuff, just trying to find something so I could get back on my feet and move out of my childhood bedroom. But what the drinking was coming from was, number one, I had no sort of preparation for what I was going to be doing after I played football. I was just happy to be there, happy I was getting a scholarship. I knew I wasn't going to the league, but I just kind of figured once I got back home, everything was going to work itself out because that's how life had always been for me. I'm Taj, the football star, coming back home with no college debt. I should be in a good position. And that didn't happen. It didn't take me long to realize that nobody's coming to knock on the door to give me a job. There was no guidance, especially back then. This was 2012 when I came back home. So, mental health, life after sports, like athletic transition, none of that was really in the conversation. So yeah, that's the best way I could sum it up. A lot of isolation, and I didn't even talk to my family about it. A lot of isolation, just not understanding how to cope or process, and a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking. Nothing wrong with smoking. I always say I might hit the blunt later tonight. But
there you go.
that's but yeah, that's what I was going through at the time.
Yeah. No, and we all get that. We all understand, and we know that as men don't speak up enough about mental health in general, and to have somebody like you openly talk about it. I hear you talk about it a lot on all the other podcasts that you're on, your own show, which we'll get into a little bit later. Go ahead, Brent. What do you got?
A couple things with that story. Like, one, as you find yourself there in that world, and I mean, I wasn't a football star, but I definitely had that sort of post-college listlessness of not really knowing what I was doing and hitting up the bar with my friends. I sort of can relate to that. Was there like a point where things sort of clicked for you, or was it like this gradual thing where you just sort of became disillusioned with the life you were living?
Yeah, it was definitely more of a gradual thing, Brent. It was the type of thing where I just got tired, man. I'm realizing like I'm hungover half the time. I'm depressed when I'm not drinking and when I'm not out. So I'm like, I need to take this athletic mindset, the thing that I loved about football, where I could focus and get better at something and just be able to pour my energy into something. I needed to take that same level of productivity and like dedication to my craft. And at the time, the craft was just like figuring out what the hell I was going to do and getting some money so I could get back on my feet. But it was a gradual thing where I started to, first of all, I stopped going out as much. You know, it was a slow tapering off. And then I started asking for help. That was another thing too. I started with my family, and honestly, it took me about a year or two to even do this. I was home for a whole year, cooped up in my room, not talking to anybody. But I started getting it off my chest. And at the time, I didn't really have the tools to explain what I was going through. But slowly but surely, I started letting them know, like, hey, I think I might be depressed right now. I don't really know what's going on. I just feel like a loser because, you know, here I thought I'm the first person in my family to go to college. So I thought I would come back home, you know, and somebody would just be waiting on me with a 6-figure job or something like that. I just thought that's how it worked. Like I'm set for life. And it was a struggle for me. And so once I started talking about that, once I started looking up to people, and the people I always looked up to were entrepreneurs, especially people who looked like me. So, you know, Nipsey Hussle is one. I got his little portrait back here in the background.
That's good.
Cleveland represent, man.
You know, Nipsey, I had a lot of people who I was looking up to at the time. And I just started diving into not just motivational videos, but like watching people who were doing interviews and understanding how business works and adopting a positive mindset and then really putting myself in position to get a job. And I had no idea what I was doing at the time. That's evolved over time, obviously. But I started getting really serious about only doing things that were going to put me in a better position in life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
So going off of that and kind of coming out of that funk, when you did that, and you said you started talking to your family, did you talk to any medical professionals about it? Like, did you get into like therapy or anything like that? Because I know that with me, the big thing was when my wife passed away, I thought I got this. I'm good. I'm feeling okay. And then as soon as I tried to go back to work, it was like, I don't have this. I can't do this. And the first thing I did was I got into therapy, and that was the best thing for me. Did you do that, or was it more of a just kind of get out there and talk to your friends and your family?
It started out with family. And then to be honest with you, Dill, I didn't have the balls to go to therapy. I remember, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. I had a friend, and she graduated the same year as I did from Stony Brook, and she went on to be a clinical psychologist she started at Oklahoma, and she's at USC now. She's a clinical psychologist who works very closely with athletes. So I would have some one-off conversations with her, but she was actually referring to me. She was like, you need to talk to someone you don't know who is a licensed therapist. Like she was still doing her residency or whatever. She was like, go see this person and they'll take care of you. And I remember being on the freeway, I'm getting off the exit, and I was about to pull up to the building to go in there to do my first therapy session. And she actually sent me some money to pay for it. And I pulled it to the parking lot, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the building, and I'm like, nah, I can't do this. And I just drove back home. And I think what it was is just not like, it took me a whole year and some change to be able to even talk to my family about it. So the idea at first of talking to a stranger about it just was too foreign to me. And you touched on this earlier, Ryan, where you were talking about like, you know, especially men being vulnerable and all that type of stuff. So yeah, to answer your question, Dill, it was like, I thought about it. I had people encouraging me to go get help, but I didn't go through with it. It wasn't actually until 2017 and that was, by that time I was 5 years removed from college, you know. I did this thing. Are you guys familiar with the Landmark Forum? Does that ring a bell at all?
Landmark Forum? No, not for me.
I've not heard of it. No.
It's basically like a personal development type thing. Like there's a room full of people, and there's one person who's like the coach, and you can go up to the microphone, and they have like a microphone on each side, and you can kind of share what you're going through and what you're experiencing, and they'll coach you. So you get to learn through other people. And the whole time I did it, I didn't go up there and speak. I was just learning through other people. And I found myself during the breaks, like going out into my car and crying because of what I was hearing through other people. So that was really like my first dose of actual therapy. And I did do some one-on-one coaching with some of those people in the Landmark Forum as well. But it took time, it took a lot of time. So I went on a tangent, Dill, but I hope that answers your question.
No, that's
tangent away.
All right.
That's all we do here.
So I've heard.
Just be grateful Jake's not here.
Oh God.
Because I do know one thing that we really strongly advocate for is, especially with men, it's really hard for us, A, to admit that we've got a problem, and B, being willing to talk to a professional about it. And I think that was my issue. Was I didn't want to talk to anyone about it. I was like, I'm fine. I don't need to talk to a therapist. What are they going to do for me? I'm going to be bawling in front of somebody I don't know. And it's like you said, I can't go through with this to go and talk to this person I don't know. But I think the benefit from it, at least in my case, was this person had no preconceived notions of what was going on. So you can just let it out, and they're going to ask you questions you never thought of. So just being able to hear these things, and like you said, hear about other people, you think you're all alone when you're going through these things. And like you said, you hear these other people that are struggling, and it's so vital for us to know that we're not alone when we're having these struggles. So I think that what you did was the right thing, even if you had to wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I think too, just a quick note on that, Dill, something you made me think of was that, how you said, like, speaking to someone who had, like, basically someone who wasn't necessarily in your situation is what helped, because you could just use them as a sounding board. Mm-hmm. For me, I think something I struggled with was like, how is this person, the woman that I was referred to, she was like a 40-year-old white woman, right? Not that, and I'm sure she was great if I would have had the balls to go into the building and get help. But my whole thought process was like, what does she know about, being a football player? Like, what does she know about? And that was kind of one of the things, aside from just me being scared to be vulnerable, of course, but that was one of the things that I think kept me away. And I was actually looking for people, like, at the time, this is what actually kind of slowly but surely led me into my work, because I was looking up, like, that word athletic or athlete transition wasn't really around back then, but I was looking up like former football players and trying to find people that I could reach out to. And I don't know, I would reach out to people and just not hear back. Maybe my approach was wrong, but I was always looking for something or someone who I felt like, okay, this person has been in my shoes. Maybe I can talk to them. And it was difficult to find at that time. And that's kind of why I started doing what I'm doing, so I could be that person, basically.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, like your current job and, helping athletes transition from, the situation that you were in, going from school to not having a job and not knowing what to do, so go ahead with that.
Yeah, so that all started because, well, number one, eventually I did get a job. It was in sales. I was selling copy machines for Xerox. That was my first job out of college. As you guys know, sales jobs are always hiring and they're always looking for athletes. So as soon as I got my foot in the door, I was like, yes, I'm making some money. And I took that job. It's funny, I couldn't wait to move out of my folks' house. I just wanted to be back on my feet again, like just feel independent, because I had that in college and I was craving that again. So I moved out. Like an idiot, I put my first month's rent on a credit card, and that's how desperate I was to move out as soon as I knew I had checks coming in. Not the best business decision or life decision there. Moved out, and then I was back on my own again, moved to San Diego. And it took me about 10 months before I realized I hated sales. Not sales in general, because sales is a part of everything we do, but selling something only for money. Like, I have no interest in copy machines. So here I was trying to go, business to business, walking into buildings, getting kicked out by security every day, trying to sell copy machines. Like, I was like, this ain't it. I got to figure out something else. So one thing I've always known is that I'm good with people. I love talking to people and I love helping people. So that gave me a pivot into recruiting. So then I started working as a recruiter. And once I started going into recruiting, I was taking off. I was making great money. I actually felt fulfilled because I was helping people put food on the table for their families. Got recruited to work in this position where I was working with San Diego County, and I was helping low-income families find jobs, and I was developing jobs out in the community. So in terms of like leadership, especially at a young age, and being able to grow just, with my skill set, that was huge for me. But I started feeling this call to want to do something more because the whole 9-to-5 lifestyle just never sat right with me. I didn't, even though I was enjoying what I was doing in that role, I still felt like I wanted to do something more because I was just tired of sitting in traffic, tired of putting on a suit and tie. I was like, I'm already done with my job in 4 hours, but I have to sit here for another 4 hours and stare at the clock. I don't like someone telling me when I can go to lunch. What if I'm not hungry from noon to 1? Like maybe I want to eat later or earlier. All that type of stuff. Like, I would always get in trouble, not in trouble, but they would always like, I'm the type of person where I can't sit still. I'm a football player. I like being outside. So being under fluorescent lights all day used to kill me. I would get up every 20 minutes and they would crack jokes like, oh, we're always looking for Taj. He's always walking around the building. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure something out. And at that point, I started figuring out how can I break away from, how can I still serve people and help people, but not have to do it in the corporate structure, so to speak.
On somebody else's terms.
That's it. I felt boxed in after a certain point. And guys, I thought about doing all kind of stuff. I was thinking about being a personal trainer, but I was like, nah, I don't want to be taking, shirtless picture on Instagram. I'm not that type of guy. It comes with a job, right? It just comes with the territory with that type of stuff. So I'm like, nah, I don't really want to do that. I like working out alone. I don't want someone else there working out with me. I did network marketing for a little bit because I was like, hey, if this is going to take me away from the 9-to-5, I'll try anything. But something happened basically. And this is all leading to a point. About 6 months, I had like this 6-month period where for some reason, everybody wanted to come visit me in San Diego. Like guys who I played with at Stony Brook, people from all around the country just wanted to come hang out. And I became like a mentor to these guys because they're like, Taj, you're doing it big. You found a job. I'm back home. I'm struggling. I remember one guy said to me, I'm back home working at Home Depot. And here you are living in San Diego, living the life. Like, how are you doing this? So long story short, I became a mentor to these guys. And even when they went back home, I would like do calls with them before work, after work, on the weekends. And I started looking forward to doing those calls more so than my 9-to-5 job. And I was like, okay, there's something here. And then they were even referring me to other people. Like my cousin, they were like, hey, Taj, my cousin just finished playing basketball at TCU. Like that was one of my first non-football players that I was coaching, like a women's basketball player who was struggling with her transition out of college. So I became like an unofficial coach. And then I started doing some research on what was actually available. And it was a joke, you guys. This was like 2017 going into 2018. All they really had like at that time, if you go on the NCAA website, it would be like how to prepare for a job interview or like different things like that. Nothing tangible, nothing to actually help people get past the emotional part. So that's when I got serious and started putting together some curriculum. Once again, made a stupid move, but I wouldn't be here if I didn't make that move. I quit my job because I was like, this is it. I put together some curriculum. This is $1 million idea. I'm going to help athletes transition. And I quickly went broke and then moved back in with my parents, which they really believe in me because they let me move back in at that time. But that's kind of how I think it's part of like the entrepreneurial journey. You got to move back home at some point,
Definitely.
And so that's kind of how it all started. And I went back home and did what I had to do for several years, stay consistent. And over the past 3 to 4 years, I've actually built it up to where I can sustain myself. And I'm actually having the type of impact that I envision. And things are opening up that I never even imagined before. That's the cool part about it too. I just wanted to coach, but all these other opportunities, the book, the podcast, me partnering with the publishing company, all this great stuff has opened up just because I stayed consistent and stayed true to my work.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. Go ahead, Brent.
So with things like the book or just these different opportunities, how did you happen into them? Was it they saw your work and like, hey, we want to be a part of this? Or were you out there pushing it, being like, hey, I have this message. I want it to get to more people. Can you help me do this? How did that work out for you?
Well, it started out with the podcast. Well, I'm sure you guys would appreciate because I'm like, I really want to help spread this message and get the word out there. So I started the Thrive After Sports podcast in 2019. And by that time, I had already been doing the coaching for about a year and some change, almost 2 years. So I had a steady stream of referrals. I was starting to develop relationships with athletic departments as well. And they were sponsoring athletes to work with me. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm making a little bit of money, but I need more athletes to work with because number one, I love doing it. And number two, it's going to help me continue to grow. So I have to get the message out. So started the podcast. That brought a lot more business in. And then I had a guy, the book came about totally by accident. So I had a guy who I was working with. He was a former overseas basketball player. We're about 5 weeks into the coaching program. And he's like, Taj, I really want to write a book and I can see myself doing public speaking. So I'm like, perfect. I got you. I'm going to help you. And I'm the type of guy where I'm not, I know I'm not the end all be all. I didn't know anything about books at the time. So I started doing research. Like, who can I connect this guy with who has written a book? I found this company, Self-Published in 30 Days, number one self-publishing company in the world. They did a book for my friend, Joy Walker. And I thought her book was really well done because it's self-published, but it doesn't look like one of these self-published books that you see on Amazon that just kind of looks like a brochure or like a church pamphlet.
KPIs or whatever.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. This was
yeah.
an actual book. And I was like, wow, this is legit. This company's doing great work. So met the founder on LinkedIn, scheduled a call with them, got the book done for the client I was working with, the overseas basketball player. I built a connection with the owner of the company, Darren Palmer, because he played football. He's about 10 years older than me, but he played football at Stephen F. Austin back in the day. So he was like, hey, man, love this work that you're doing. This is awesome. I struggle with this too, but I didn't have a word for it back when I was playing. And he just became like a business mentor to me. And so I wrote my book, published the book through the company, Thrive After Sports. And then as our relationship went on, our business mentoring relationship went on, he was like, hey, man, what do you think about coming on board as vice president of my company and essentially building out an athletic division, overseeing any book projects related to athletes? And I came on board officially. It's been almost a year. September of 2020 is when I officially came on board. And we've cranked out a lot of books, a lot of book projects since then. Awesome. So thank you.
So you got another one coming out too, right?
I do. Yeah, this one right here. I know it's probably backwards on my screen, but this is Athlete to Entrepreneur. So, and this is not a solo book. You can, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a bunch of people in here. Athletes from all different sports, all different walks of life. They have all different types of businesses. My goal with that book was to do a collaboration project where it's not just me, but 20 other former athletes turned entrepreneurs, and they're all telling their story. They're talking about their transition. They're talking about, how they were able to build a business and what it's been like, some of the ups and downs. And my goal with that book is really like for that next generation of athletes to see like, hey, it's not just, I always say it's not just LeBron James who is like taking off with, his entrepreneurial ventures. It's everyday people like you and I, people who went to schools you probably you've never even heard of, but athletes make great entrepreneurs. And I want that book to be like a testament to that when people are reading their stories.
Yeah. And I've seen some interviews you've done with some of the other authors in that book. And I can't wait to get my hands on it. I'm going to check it out. I love the work you do. I think it's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So what's next for you, man? What else you got going on? Is anything new in the works?
Yeah. So just, and it's actually perfect. Like you said, I know you've been traveling the world, Ryan, Mr. International, you know what I'm saying? So if we would have done this interview sooner, then I wouldn't be able to share with you that Stony Brook, as of last week, just officially made my book part of this book. They officially made Thrive After Sports part of the required reading for the life skills course. So all athletes who go through the life skills course, that book is now on the syllabus. And basically I have an agreement with them where every semester they're going to order X amount of books so that the students can have it. And then it's summer classes as well. So both semesters and then summer classes, they'll have it on the syllabus. So that's been huge. And I'm looking to do that with, as many universities as possible. Obviously it helps out that people go ahead, Brent.
Oh, no. That's just me saying next, but it's actually a question on Stony Brook then.
We have our hand signals.
Yeah, when we do that, because we don't want to shout over each other. So that's right. Saying I want next question.
If I see you guys do that, I'm just going to shut up because I go on tangent. So it's on you, Brent.
No. You go off, man.
We want you to go off. You're saying great things. We just spout nonsense, man. Go.
I'll wrap it up with this, Ryan, because you asked me what I have going on. So that's the big news that just came in last week for Stony Brook. It's official. They already ordered their first batch of books for the fall semester. Aside from that, I'm partnered with this nonprofit called Athlete Soul, and that's founded by Miriam Glass. So Miriam Glass is actually, she's a contributor to the Athlete's Entrepreneur book. She's a former Olympian, two-time Olympian, actually, Olympic swimmer. Her nonprofit Athlete Soul does exactly what I do, helps athletes transition. So now I'm able to not only get the sponsorships from universities, but I can get scholarships from Athlete Soul because they have to show that they're using the grant money to be able to serve athletes. So I can coach athletes through Athlete Soul and get compensated for that as well. And then the other big thing, I'll wrap it up with this, is my role with self-published in 30 days, of course, has enabled me to help a lot of former athletes, not just people I'm working with, but like people who are also in a similar space with me, help them get their books done. And now also I'm doing others. So just like Athletes Entrepreneur, I'm overseeing, I think we have like 11 different projects right now and counting, 11 different collaboration projects. So just like I've spearheaded Athletes Entrepreneur, there's a bunch of other great people who are spearheading collaboration projects, and they each have, 10, 15, 20 different contributors to their book. It's not just all about transition or entrepreneurship. Some people are writing about stuff that's totally different, but I basically am becoming like the, the Quincy Jones or like the DJ Khaled of like the athlete space, where I'm just putting all these people together to work on projects. So that's been pretty cool.
Another one.
Another one. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's obvious that you've, gone from your parents' basement or parents' house, your childhood bedroom, and now you're doing amazing things. So, I give you props for that, because it's tough to get out of that situation, man. Like, we've all been there. So
yeah, hard times.
Go ahead, Brett.
One thing I like about your story so far is it sounds to me as if when you see another opportunity that is, in addition to what you're doing, you jump on it and you make the most of it. Now, you mentioned about your alma mater there, Stony Brook, having your book as, required reading in a class that might not, in life skills, because they realize what you bring to the table with that. Is that something where they sort of found you on that, or did you reach out to them? How did you start on that whole venture of providing the books to colleges like yours and hopefully more?
Great question, Brent. And the answer is I put myself in position. Someone from so the Alumni Association actually reached out to me, and there's this guy, his name is Isidro Fortuna. I've had him on my podcast. He goes by Izzy. He played baseball at Stony Brook, and he's now the director of life skills at Stony Brook. And it's crazy because when I was in school, they didn't have directors of life skills. That wasn't even that was an afterthought. They have the advisors or whatever to help you with the credits, but no one to help you get prepared for life after. Right. So Izzy, that's where I first met Izzy. It was like a mentorship program. I did it for free, of course. I just mentored. They wanted alumni athletes to mentor current athletes who are about to graduate. And I was like, that's exactly what I do. Let's do it. So I kind of got to help out with that. And that's how I met Izzy. And then as I started developing a relationship with Izzy and talking to him, of course, I sent him a copy of my book, and he loved it. And he was like, hey, man, we got to have you come in and speak. So, and this was during the pandemic. So I did a couple virtual speaking gigs, talking to the student athletes, not just talking at them, but also doing like Q&A. Like I got on this call for an hour and just let them ask questions. And I just answered their questions about, getting prepared to graduate and what comes next. But that's how that relationship developed. And once he read the book and I did those couple of speaking gigs, he was like, yeah, man, let's figure out how we can get you more involved and get this book into more hands. And I was like, I'm all for it,
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Putting yourself out there. That's
absolutely, man. That's all you got to do.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. It's crazy. The same classrooms I used to be, walking to in my flip-flops or sitting in the back with my beats on, not paying attention. Now people have my book in those classrooms, So it's just crazy to think about how life comes full circle. I never could have imagined that back then.
And, I think back on my college days and, I don't regret going to school. I think college was a great way for me to develop as a person. But it really doesn't, prepare you properly for life after college. And I wasn't an athlete in college. I was too small. Like I weighed like 100 pounds. I weighed like 98 pounds when I went to college. I was a freshman, 98 pouns.
Wow.
I couldn't do it. Yeah.
All right, he weighs 105 now. It's all.
I bulked up a little bit. So like there was never that like real push to, really, really prepare you for the real world. And now, with people like you and, these different books and just entrepreneurs doing the things that they're doing, it helps people like in school now that are trying to figure out what's next. What am I going to do? And you do an amazing thing for the community, and we applaud you for that. It's incredible.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
You know, it sort of reminded me. I read an article yesterday in the highbrow publication of GQ. It was an interview with Joe. But he brought up something about just how he was 22 years old and all of a sudden he was a movie star with Superbad, and he talked about how he dropped out of college and how that was a regret, but not for the reason that he said, well, I just thought, well, what am I doing here spinning my wheels in college when I could be out there, pursuing my dream? And next thing you know, I did it. But I feel like, he said, I feel like that 18 to 22-year-old thing where you're in college, it's sort of that little bit of wiggle time between childhood and adulthood to get used to it. So with that in mind, I thought that was a pretty good idea, because that's really kind of what I got out of my college career too. Something like what you're doing, Taj, can really augment that. That's really what we're doing. If we're really trying to transition, and clearly you had some issues with your transition, I think a lot of us do on a smaller scale. I think that's really where value, you provide value and it's not even to athletes and stuff. It's to every schmo like me who just went to parties and showed up to class and got those C's to get those degrees. Everybody can benefit from what you have to offer.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and I'm in agreement with both of you guys, because at the end of the day, I always tell people I learned way more outside of the classroom than I did in the classroom. I can't even remember one impactful or meaningful class that I had or things that I still use to this day. But like you guys are saying, just, the experience of having that period to be away from the nest, to grow, and, you got to survive on your own and figure it out. And that's probably, and then the relationships, of course, too. That's the most meaningful thing I got from college. And then when it comes to, like you guys are saying, helping not just athletes prepare, but students in general prepare, or like college kids in general prepare, I think the example I would want to set on that front is like, you don't have to just, first of all, you don't have to have it all figured out, because who really does? Yeah. I mean, what percentage of people have their lives figured out by the time they graduate?
I'm 36. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
I'm 44, man.
Yeah, 39, just left the defense industry, and I'm driving like Uber. So yeah.
Right. So here we are. We're all still figuring it out, and it's one of those things where like that's the example I want to set, is like, you don't have to just, okay, I got this degree. Of course, if you're going to be like a doctor or a lawyer or marine biologist or something, you need to be paying attention. But if you're just going to float through college, whatever, you can figure it out on the fly and just learn from people and learn outside the classroom. Because my Italian literature class or Asian history class, it's not really doing me much good right now. Neither is my calculus class. So here I am.
Yep, I got a theater degree.
For critical thinking, I suppose. But I do sort of have a follow-up on that, because I mean, obviously, Taj, we only really know intimately like our own realities. Mm-hmm. I have heard in just interviews and such, former athletes, either professional or college, say that a big reason that they struggled with the transition was because life as an athlete in college or the pros is so regimented. There's always somebody telling you have to lift now, you have to eat this, you study with these people at this time. Do you believe that that is something that plays a factor?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Not having that structure after you graduate, it's almost like you have too much free time on your hands and then you don't know what to do with it. And that is a major contributing factor to being lost. It was for me, and it was for, any athlete I've talked to, is your entire life. Like you said, Brent, is just you eat, breathe, and sleep your sport. If you're not training, you're on a bus traveling somewhere. If you're not on a bus, you're watching film, or you're at practice, or, team meetings. It's like, if you're not in class or doing something football related, what are you really doing? And then 9 times out of 10, most of us are just in classes to kind of get us by so we can stay eligible, which, got to take responsibility for that too. I could have done a better job. But when it's all said and done, to your point, Brent, it's just, there's not enough time in the day to prepare or have a clear vision for what you want to do. I mean, if students in college who aren't playing a sport barely have time to figure out what they want to do or what they want to do after they graduate, imagine, you're doing 12, 14, 16-hour days with a sport as well. So that's one of the major challenges for sure.
Yeah,
Sure,
definitely.
absolutely.
Now I heard an interview with you earlier today. I can't remember the name of the show, but you were talking about your spiritualism and trying to like really find yourself, and you experimented a little bit with DMT
Mhm.
and mushrooms, and I hear Mike Tyson talk about that stuff all the time. Every interview he does now, he goes off onto DMT, and everybody's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
The toad. He's always talking about the toad.
Yeah, it's like, "You ever had the toad?" And everyone's like, "What the fuck are you talking about, dude?" But I'm very curious to hear a little bit more about your experience with that, and like how like that helped you spiritually. Because I know it's like, from what I've heard, it's intense.
Yeah. Before I even go into anything, have you guys tried any of that stuff? Like
I've never
acid or
done
DMT or
mushrooms.
mushrooms?
I've done
I'm
I've
acid.
tried
watching
it.
but-
I
this.
tried acid years ago, and
What in
smoked a
Woodstock?
lot of
You
pot.
old?
I
Yeah,
respect it.
Woodstock. 10 years before I was.
Woodstock.
We like to make fun of Dill for being like ancient, so
Yeah, 'cause I'm
it's fine.
5 years older than they are.
I was gonna say, I thought Dill was 44. I thought you were 44, Dill. It's not. They're like, damn,
No,
it's
no,
not that
like-
old.
No, like
Born in the 70s, man.
See what I have to put up with? You wonder why
He
I have
says
problems
he
with my
says
mental health?
44, but he was born in 44 is what he meant to say.
Oh, you guys are ruthless, man.
Good thing you're in France.
Yeah, come get me, buddy.
Hey, he was
So,
there during
yeah.
the revolution. It's a rough place. You won't go back.
The French Revolution.
All right, enough of this.
So yeah, if
See
you
that-
want to explain the DMT and your experience with mushrooms and stuff like that, like we'd love to hear about that a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. So I think Joe Hawley was the episode that you listened to. Joe Hawley, he's
Yes,
a former NFL
yes.
lineman. He retired with the Bucks. I can't remember who he played with before, but he's heavy into that shit. And he interviewed me just about my experience with that. So I did shrooms. Like, I was pretty straight edge until about 17. I didn't want it to interfere with football, right? I was always
Right.
scared. I thought people in high school, because I was playing football, I thought people who smoked weed were losers. That was just kind of what I thought. And then I smoked weed for the first time my junior year, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." Yeah, and I can still. In fact, I think it made me better during my senior year because I was more relaxed and more in tune with the game. But long story short, I had never, really done anything outside of smoking weed and drinking. And then I had a friend of mine. You guys are heavy into sports, so are you guys familiar with Dominic Reyes, a UFC fighter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he is.
I don't
So
really watch UFC.
Okay, but the reason I bring that up is because, oh man, I'm throwing him under the bus right now. That's all right, whatever. He probably talks about it, whatever.
He's fine.
He'll be all right. So Dom, because he's also from California and he grew up in the Inland Empire where I grew up. He was like a big brother to me. He's a year or two older than me, and I played corner and he played safety. And so one day, Dom was always heavy into that shit. He was a lot more awake and aware than everybody, which I think is why he was a great safety. But long story short, after practice one day, he's like, "Hey Taj, a few of the guys, we're gonna go to my house and do some shrooms. Do you want to come?" And I'm like, fuck it, why not? This is college, why not?
Experiment.
Yeah, and I trusted him. That's important too. Like I trusted him. Like I knew he knew his shit. He showed me pictures and everything. Like, look, this is what it is. You can Google it. This is all legit. Just try it out. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. And I always say there's a version of me before I tried shrooms, and this was at 20. So this was my sophomore or junior year. There's a version of me before and a version after, because what I experienced during that first trip was I had like a religious experience, nothing crazy, but I felt, this sounds cheesy, but it was so profound at the moment. It was nighttime. We were outside, fall night in Long Island, and we're off these shrooms, just walking around barefoot outside in the woods. And I like squatted down and I'm like stroking the hairs on my beard and also playing with the grass. And I was like, wow, the grass grows off of the earth like the beard or like the hair grows off of my face. And that was the craziest shit to me. And I couldn't believe it. It sounds like some dumb druggy shit, but in that moment to me, it was like, wow, this is, I never thought about it like that before and how connected everything is. And then I actually felt like, I felt my ego dissolve a little bit. So I just kind of felt the presence. So that was that. And since then I had like made it a point, no matter where I was in the world, no matter where I was living, to try to get my hands on some shrooms at least once a year, just so I could have that reset and have that, you know, that experience again. I tried acid one time. It was cool. This was when I was like, you know, a couple years removed from college. It was okay, but I always gravitated back to the shrooms. So I only done acid once. And then the acid.
Yeah.
I was terrified. I didn't think it was going to go away. That was the problem with me.
Yeah. It sent me on this like wild, I took a shower. I made the mistake of taking a shower when I was on it.
God.
And like, I felt like I was in a cartoon. And I was like, this shower is never going to end and I'm going to die.
The best advice I've ever given anyone was my nephew went to college and I said, look, people are going to offer you stuff. If it comes out of the ground, it's probably okay. If it comes out of a lab, you shouldn't put it in your body.
Great advice.
And that's how I've always felt about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's great advice. Because acid scared me. I had a rough experience with it too. I enjoyed it at first, but I got scared because it lasted so long. It was 5 a.m. and I couldn't go to sleep. I would like close my eyes for a second and think it was over. And then I would wake up like, oh my God, I'm still on fire right now. What is going on? So that was my last time with that. But I've done shrooms probably at least once a year. Okay. And then DMT, that actually just happened last year in 2020. And that was, I'm still recovering from it, to be honest with you, but it was.
That's what Mike says too. He's like, I feel like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I love that. I love Hotboxing with Mike Tyson, and I actually love when he talks about. So he did the Toad, which is I don't know I think that's 5-MeO DMT. I did the other one, the one that it doesn't come from a toad. I guess I don't know how they make it, but that was a profound experience because like the thing with shrooms is I feel like you drop your ego and you can exist as a human being without an ego, but you're still here. You're still kind of existing. You just love everybody. You feel overjoyed. When I did DMT, I didn't exist anymore. And that was the part that fucked me up because I was like, I actually thought I died. So, and I had just come out with my book. Brent's face is cracking me up right now. Brent, you
No, but
it's amazing. I'm loving this so much, man.
And
keep
I heard you say that.
Keep going.
I heard you say that when you were talking about Josh, or when you were talking to Josh about it. So like,
I'm looking at Brent's face right now. Like, Brent, I can tell you're never gonna do DMT, man.
I'm thinking I really got to do DMT.
I mean, it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot. So what happened was there's an experience where, and like Mike Tyson talks about it, you basically disappear and then you blast off. So I had the experience, not me, not Taj the human being, like a physical body. My consciousness was traveling through time and space at the speed of light. So that was the first thing. But that was actually kind of enjoyable. And then I started to like, once I realized that I had the experience, okay, I don't actually exist. Like I'm nothing and everything at the same time. And I know that sounds, once again, kind of weird. But I had this moment of like, I came up out of it because it only lasts like 10, 15 minutes. Okay. So I came out of it and I'm like, and I was with some really good people. And my fiance was there too. She did it first.
And you had a facilitator there too, also.
Yes. Yeah. So my fiance did it first. And I don't know, I think just women are just better at letting go and kind of just surrendering and all that, because she had a beautiful experience. She came out of it. She was like crying tears of joy. And then I'm like, okay, me next. I want that too. And then shit got scary. So I did it because I'm not as free to just let go and just willingly just die and not exist anymore. I did it next and had that experience of blasting off. And then I came out of it and I was like really happy. And I started crying and, you know, I was giving the people in the room a hug and I just kept saying, we're here. And other people started crying. It was great. And then the facilitator looks at me and he was like, Taj, I think you can go deeper. And I'm like, okay, well, don't threaten me with the good time. Let's take another hit. So I lay back down on the floor. He loads up the bag and we were smoking out of a volcano. I take another hit and then I blast off again. But then it got scary because I actually thought that I died. It was that I had the experience of it, like not in a painful way, but just like I actually don't exist anymore. It's hard to explain. That's the best way I can explain it. And then I started to panic. So I got because I'm thinking like, I just came out with this book. Like, is this my story? Like I'm experimenting with drugs and then I die after I come out with the book. Like, is that how my tale ends? And it just brought this like sadness and terror over me. And they actually had to calm me down, because when I came out of it, I was like, I pushed it. And they're like, you pushed what? And I'm thinking like, I pushed it. Like, Taj, why are you trying all these drugs? Like, what are you doing? And then, it only lasts 10 to 15 minutes. So I came out of it, and then like the next 2 or 3 minutes, like the peace was restored. And I was like, okay, I'm not scared anymore. But I actually just had the experience that I died, and I thought that I died, which is crazy. And so having that experience, I think since then, which was that was earlier this year, I think in January or something. But that experience was profound, because like I used to talk about being fearless and, maybe be fearless on the football field. But like, guys, I actually just don't give a fuck now, because I experienced death. So I'm truly not afraid anymore, because it doesn't get scarier than thinking like your life is ended. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's the same thing Mike said. He said, it's the closest thing to meeting God.
Right.
That's how he explains it. And I found that really profound. I was like, wow, that's
there's
crazy.
Apparently
awesome.
a documentary film called The Spirit Molecule, which is about DMT. It came out in 2010. So I guess I'm going to have to check it out. I was just,
Me too.
I was just looking at it, and I was like, ooh. And of course, the host of this documentary, who do you think it is? There's only one person. It's Joe Rogan.
Deshaun.
Oh, that makes sense.
Of course.
Brent said it was me.
Of course
It's Taj Dashaun.
Surprise, guys. Yes, I hosted the Spirit Molecule. Yeah.
I don't remember doing that.
I was on DMT when I hosted it, apparently. But wow, that makes sense that Joe Rogan. I'm gonna have to check that out. I heard about it, but never ended up watching it. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Well, thanks for sharing that experience, man. Like, it's
awesome. Yeah,
I'm sweating now, by the way. So reliving that experience has me sweating. I would never do it again, by the way. I think I wouldn't say never, but it's one of those things where kind of how I felt with acid. It's like, okay, I get it. Mm-hmm. Same thing with DMT. Like, there's no more to get than what I got, so I don't feel the need to ever do that again. But shrooms, I just love the experience of being on shrooms so much. I do them as often as I can. At least once every 6 months, I do a shroom trip. Right, just out of respect for the plant.
Yeah. I saw Mike Tyson take a handful of shrooms and just shove them in his mouth while he was like petting a pigeon. Like, what are you?
What? He's on a different frequency, man. Yeah, that's why
I'd say.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd vomit if I did that.
So would I. That's a lot.
Well, you said the first time you did mushrooms, you just had the stems and everything on a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, that's how we ate it. Now I get these chocolates.
Okay,
it's just a lot, a much better experience because they don't taste all that great. So yeah, but the first time I ate them, you eat the stems and the caps on top of that's how a lot of people eat it. You just eat it with bread and peanut butter. Not the most enjoyable experience. Now I enjoy the chocolates.
Yeah. All right, that's cool. Do you guys have any other questions before we get into some off the rails stuff now?
No, that was a journey.
That was a journey.
Because now we're going to get into the real weird stuff.
Now, so football season's about to start. Who's your team?
The Rams. It's been the Rams. Yeah, I'm a Rams fan. And I hate to let you guys down, just so you know, before we go into any sports talk. I am not the most aware of current sports because I do watch highlights. So I'm not the guy who's going to watch a full game. I don't know all the stats. I don't know shit, you guys. I'm focused on my business, doing what I got to do. Yeah. But to answer your question, I'm a Rams fan. I've been a Rams fan probably since I was 8 years old.
All right. Nice.
All right.
I think
Stafford's a treat when they moved from St. Louis to LA, where you're from the Inland Empire. Like, oh shit, now they're my home team.
Yeah. And then you moved.
I had mixed emotions about it because when I really fell in love with the Rams was around 99, 2000, 2001. My favorite player, Marshall Faulk. I had all the Marshall Faulk jerseys. Plus they had Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce. I just idolized those guys. And and my grandmother's from St. Louis, so I think something to do with that is why I kind of started liking the Rams, because no one else in my family likes the Rams aside from my grandma. But once they moved to LA, I mean, I felt weird about it because they were like, to me, they're the St. Louis Rams, and I know they were the LA Rams long before that. But I mean, I'm a fan again, honestly, and the guy that makes me a fan of the current team is Jalen Ramsey, because I play corner and safety. Jalen Ramsey's a monster.
He is.
And just watching him play for the Rams has been pretty dope for me. He's gotten me back into loving the Rams all over again.
How do you feel about those uniforms?
I think, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just being nostalgic, but I like the older ones better. I don't know, man.
for sure.
Well, no. It's because you have vision and you can see what.
Okay.
That's
All
what
right.
happened there.
All right. It's
Yeah.
not just me then. I'm good. I'm
No,
good.
no.
those are ugly. I hate those uniforms.
that bone white color off,
Yeah. Why
Yeah,
not just
horrible,
go
man.
like,
and like
Yeah,
the
it's a weird-
cartoon numbers, like
I hate
yeah.
the current what is it, the Falcons with those numbers, the gradient numbers that fade out
yeah,
at the bottom.
that was
the
a poor
Rams do
choice.
that too on their uniforms.
Yeah.
Why
It
don't
reminds
we
me
go
of a
back to,
high
like,
school
that-
team.
Like
Yeah.
we grew
Yeah,
up
yeah.
with like 80s Rams uniforms. Like those are fine. Those are
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. The 80s Rams just pretty simple because it was actually like regular white and yellow, right? Not even gold. It was like white, yellow, and blue, right?
Those
I think
were my
that's-
favorite. Those
Yeah,
were
I
my
think those are
favorite
nice.
teams.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are solid. Yeah, I'm not really digging the new ones either, you guys.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go away from the football a little bit. So Bree, her name's Bree. She goes, or her handle on Twitter is XHAKAED, and she said there isn't one American sport better than cricket. Period.
She's joking, right?
That's what everybody said. She's
Yeah.
like, this is
All that
clearly
football
just
you
like,
played growing up, bullshit.
yeah. She's like,
Yeah.
this is clearly a joke. And then she said she's serious. She is from the UK,
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Well, I mean,
but it's not an American sport. It's a Northern UK sport. It's a Northern England
Right.
sport that
Great.
went over to India. It's huge there. It's not an American sport.
well, perhaps that's why you immerse yourself in the culture of that sport. Because I don't know, like Taj, you ever tried to like even like parachute in on what cricket is? It makes no goddamn sense.
Is that the one? I'm not even sure if I understand.
It's like baseball, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You, like
Like-
they throw it underhand and you gotta like golf it, and then you gotta like run back and forth until they get the ball back in.
And
It's really
the matches
really
last like 5 days.
Yeah.
What?
they're-
It's like the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it
I've
was
watched a game like for a minute and I was like, nah, this is dumb. I can't.
All right. Like, do you remember when you were a kid and you'd like have like a basketball or something, but you would just be like, let's invent a new sport. We play basketball on rollerblades or just some dumb shit like that. It feels like that's like, well, let's not play baseball. Let's invent something else. And it feels like they're still inventing it as they're going along.
They're still inventing it.
Yeah. Well,
But I mean,
and-
perhaps if you're immersed in the culture of cricket, maybe sports with actual rules that make sense just seem boring to you. I don't know. Maybe it's a different point of view. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're entitled to your opinion, Bree. Have fun. Have
Yeah.
fun out there.
Not
We're
my
just gonna
thing.
disagree with you.
You take the next 10 days and watch that match. I'm going to sit here and watch a football game in 3 hours.
Seriously,
How do you bet on cricket?
Ooh,
you
that's
don't.
How
Why-
do you
why
take
would
like
Like,
take
they're
the
like,
over-
I get on FanDuel and
you got to take the over or under on how long the match is going to last. That's the only way.
ooh, okay.
Is it going to last 5 days? Is it going to last 3 days? I don't know.
So, do they take breaks, or is this like an ongoing game where people sub in, or I mean, they go
They
to
take
sleep and
breaks,
wake up
like-
the next day, right?
Yeah,
But they
yeah,
keep
yeah.
score.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Which we don't know how it works.
could you imagine that? Like, oh man, I got tickets to day 7 of this cricket match. Should be pretty close to the end. Hopefully, we see some fireworks.
When I was living in Singapore, I was playing flag football with a group of Americans over there, and at the same park, they had all these Indian people because it was like in Little India in Singapore, and they were all playing cricket. And I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, what are they doing?
Nobody explained it to you, or nobody could break it down for you. You're just
no, like not even the guys that were playing could break it down for me. They're like, I don't know.
Well, I imagine them watching like American football, like, so what, you can go for it 3 times and now you kick the ball really far? What the hell's going on?
Can I tell you guys about the most bananas game I've ever heard? It's this Indian game where it's like tag, but you're allowed to tackle the guy who's where like you run over and you have to touch as many people on the other team as possible and then get back to your side of the line without taking a breath, and they're allowed to try to stop you from getting to the other side of the line. My brother was telling me about this where they just like it's like this real bizarre version of tag and smear the queer where you're trying to run over.
We don't say that anymore.
Sorry, yeah. It's like, but it's you run over and you're not allowed, you have to hold your breath, and then you tag as many people as you can on the other team, and then if you let your breath out, or I'm sorry, if you take a breath, then you're out. But if you cross like even your finger over the line, anybody you touched or anybody who touched you is out.
This sounds like it
was 100% invented on like an elementary school playground.
That's exactly what it was. My
sounds like Ted Brogan's sex party.
Yeah, it sounds like a recess game that I would just like lose interest in like 10 minutes.
Well, my brother's friend is from India, and he was telling us about it. And now all of a sudden, there was some Indian billionaire that decided that he wanted to like put a sport on TV, and he just fully funded this league. And the first season, they averaged like 100 million viewers.
Okay.
It must be a hell of a spectator sport. We need to. Can you find out the name of this sport?
Yeah, I'll ask my brother. Well,
when I was
keep
in
in mind,
college,
India has 1.5 billion people, so that's
exactly.
not,
Yeah.
When I was in
they
college,
didn't have that team at Stony Brook.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Maybe I just didn't know about it.
Yeah. When I was in college, I was in a fraternity, Zeta Beta Tau, and we turned beer pong into a contact sport. Like we would
How the hell do you do that?
Full contact beer pong. So you got like 3 players on one team. Each player has a diamond of cups, and you can defend yourself. So like if somebody throws the ball over and it starts bouncing around on the ground, you can run over and try to get it. And they have to play defense and try to like tackle.
That got real messy.
It got so messy.
We just did the usual, the girls bend over and show their boobs, or somebody yells at somebody for elbow was over this, and you get caught up in semantics. And then you go on a real heater and you win like 10 in a row, and then you realize you missed the whole party and all your friends left with the girl. Yeah, like that's how. I mean, that was pretty traditional.
Pretty traditional.
Classic. All right. I think I got one more thing. 2 more, maybe. 2 more. So Logan Paul, the Paul brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Paul said his brother Jake could knock out Myles Garrett. Have you seen Myles Garrett? The size of that man.
Well, maybe he has a weak chin.
That man has like muscles where muscles don't belong. Like it's ridiculous.
I gotta give it to those guys, man.
I do too.
Paul brothers, they're doing a hell of a job of promoting them. They've revolutionized the game when it comes to promoting. I think they made it. They put a lot of attention back on boxing too, which is. Yeah. I mean, they made it different. I can't knock them. I know they do it. They're trolling half the time, but yeah. I mean, shit, it's working. Whatever they're doing.
The fight's coming up this week, right? With what's his name?
Tyron Woodley.
Woodley, yeah.
Is it this week?
I think that's this weekend. I gotta check that out.
That's a bad idea. Really?
Yeah,
That's
well,
a fight that's happening?
it's Jake Paul. Jake Paul's the better
It doesn't
boxer out of the
matter.
two. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Woodley's got this one.
Yeah, that's a really bad idea. Why would you do that?
I don't know.
No. I'm really worried now.
Yeah.
And I don't think that one is how some people call the fight with Floyd fixed. I think Woodley's gonna be in there trying to do some damage. So
He
it could
wants
get
to.
ugly really
Yeah.
fast.
There's eventually going to be one where where one of these Paul brothers just gets destroyed. Like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where
only a
it's
matter
not
of
going to be
time.
an exhibition. You're going to piss off the wrong dude who has a little bit of a screw loose. They're going to get in there and like, oh, you want to be taken, and somebody's going to end them. It's not going to be pretty.
It's not going to be like
that's part of the spectacle, because you know what? You put the smelling salts on your face. You go to the emergency room. You get out and you cash your massive check.
Right.
And do it all over again in like 6 months. Like
exactly.
I get it.
I'd do
I
the same
respect the
thing.
hustle.
I'd jump in the ring with one of the Paul brothers and take that loss. I don't
They
give a
would
shit.
beat me.
You give me that $20 million, I'll take it. You knock me out
Yeah, most
for a
definitely.
second. I'll stick my chin out for you. You just give me that money.
In a
I
way,
could
it's
die
kind of
for
insane.
$20 million.
I'm willing to die for $20 million. I got like
how good-
$8 right now. So
How good must the cardio be to be in boxing? Because honestly, when the Paul brothers jump in, they're shredded.
yeah,
They clearly put in the work, but then usually it's like by the 5th round, they're like me when I was hiking in the Rocky Mountains last year.
Well, that's the thing about it
no
too.
body fat.
Yeah, they're actually training too, and that's the thing
Mhm.
that I actually respect about it, because they're trolling and calling everybody out, but then they actually train to fight. So
They do,
that's
yeah.
what makes it interesting too. Like, the whole Nate Robinson thing was, to me,
Yeah, that was a joke.
at the end of the, I know you guys have probably talked about this at length on this show.
Not
but
about
to
the
me,
Nate Robinson one, but
yeah,
about
it
the other
was.
stuff. Yeah.
I was actually impressed. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think Nate was really training.
No.
Didn't Snoop say you don't play boxing, you don't play pimping, you don't play boxing? I was like, yeah, you can't get in the ring and these guys have been training and you haven't, just because you're a professional athlete. Like, you got to get it together, man. He got his ass mollywopped. And then I actually didn't see the fight with Floyd. Did you guys actually watch that? Because I
watched it. Yeah.
I did not.
Uh,
I caught highlights.
He got
Yeah.
knocked out. He got knocked out, and Floyd held him up until the fight was over. There was like 5 seconds left, and you could tell
okay.
he hit him with an uppercut, and he just went like, "Nah." And Floyd was like holding him up. He was just like, let's just keep the match, how we planned it,
Right.
and move on with our 20 mil. Yeah,
Whatever Paul brother that was so much bigger than Floyd. It looked like Mike Tyson's Punch Out, but
yeah.
it actually sort of worked. It was ridiculous, but they made it work. Like, there's no way that should have ever been sanctioned, but they made it work.
He was like 50 pounds heavier than him, I think.
Yeah, he towered over him.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to our trash take of the week.
All right.
We do this every week, Taj. We usually have a trash take of the week and then a take of the week to end it on a positive note. Our trash take of the week goes to Paul Pierce. Now, Paul Pierce said, if the Lakers don't win the championship this year, LeBron James's legacy is ruined and he's not even in the top 5 discussion.
Wow. It's a bold statement.
That is a very bold statement. I mean,
So his 11 finals appearances don't,
Yeah, he has 4 rings. I mean,
yeah.
but I like to say that pantheon. It's such horseshit. I think that.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. It's just freaking like drive time talk radio fodder, because there's no answer. It's a rhetorical question.
Exactly.
And we argue about it. There's no way to ever prove. I'm so sick of the argument. You know what? They're all great in their own way. And you know what?
Yeah.
Paul Pierce is a Hall of Famer. He was a great
Yeah.
player, but he's not on the pantheon, and maybe he's pissed about it. I don't know. Shut up, Paul Pierce.
He actually, there was an interview with him a couple years ago. He said he had a better career than Dwayne Wade. And then from there, I
don't
remember
know if I agree with that.
Nobody agrees with that.
If
He
said
actually
my boy
got called
Tim
out.
Duncan, I'd go fight him.
he got called out by Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was sitting next to him, and he was like, all right, we're going to break this down. And he's like, he's done this. He's accomplished this. He's accomplished this. You have not accomplished any of that. You do not get to say that. And Paul Pierce
those
is just
Chicago
like,
ballers, they're going to stick together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Man.
great.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
Quick question about Paul Pierce. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No. Go ahead.
That's why you're on the show, man.
Yeah. You
All
jump
right,
in,
cool.
man.
Quick question about the Paul Pierce statement. I'm wondering why he's saying that. I'm out of the loop a little bit, you guys, especially when it comes to basketball. Why is he saying this year specifically? Like if they don't win it all this year, what is
They
it
went
about
out and got,
this
like
year?
Russell Westbrook and like a bunch of guys who were really good like 6, 7, 8 years ago. Like they have Carmelo now, and who else they have?
They have the oldest
Marc
roster.
Gasol. Yeah, they have a bunch of guys that like 10 years ago we thought were like just amazing, and now they're kind of on the downslope. But the big thing is they brought in, as well with having AD and LeBron, they brought in Russell Westbrook.
So that's
Is there another? Is there a bigger super team right now than the Lakers?
Oh yeah,
I would say
the
the
Nets. The Nets have KD, Kyrie, and Harden.
Okay,
You
that's
know,
how out of the
like,
loop I am. I didn't even know that, you guys.
Yeah. And it's like that's such a ridiculous super team, and honestly, like I don't know, man. Like super teams started how many years ago, and nobody wants to admit it. And Paul Pierce was on a super team.
Right.
Yeah, have
He
you
was
ever
on a
noticed
super
that
team.
every good player that got drafted by another team back way before we were born ended up being a Laker?
That's true.
Like Kareem was a Buck, guys.
Yeah. They always wind up in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
And I think our take of the week this week is going to be Taj Dashaun. Everything you've talked about today, it's been great. We've loved having you on the show. Your experience and helping all these other athletes out, just find themselves. And you found yourself, and now you're helping other people do that. And for me, that is the take of the week. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Like, it's incredible.
Great. Yeah.
Completely agree, man. Anybody who makes an entrepreneurial decision based off of the fact that I want to help people, shit, you got my respect, Taj. Seriously. That's the kind of entrepreneur
Thank you.
I want to stand behind. That, and you told me about some crazy new drugs I need to try.
Take it slow, Brett. Take it slow, man. I don't want to hear any crazy stories about you, man.
Next week he's doing mushrooms and DMT.
Oh my God. Hey, well, I appreciate that.
Oh yeah. Go ahead,
Dale. I'm sorry. I know.
No, I gotta
hold
wait
on.
till you hear the story about him taking his pants off and trying to climb in the delivery window at McDonald's when he was in college.
I was drunk. It was my birthday and I was 22.
I think you get a pass on that, especially at 22 and it was your birthday. You get a pass.
Yeah, it wasn't like a few weeks ago or anything.
Well, that was something else. That was something else. We'll get into that another time. But Taj, do you have anything else you want to say? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you guys, and I'm honored to be the not the trash sports take, but the sports take.
The take of the week.
I'm the take of the week. Okay, I'm honored and appreciate you guys having me on the show, Ryan. I know I've chopped it up with you a little bit on LinkedIn, and but Dill and Brent, you guys are awesome. I feel like we're all in the room together. It's one of those. I've had a good time, so definitely appreciate you, and I'm sure I'll be in touch with all you guys because I want to. I got some stuff I'm working on that I like to loop everyone in on, and we'll be in touch for sure. Appreciate you, fellas. Love what you're doing. And like I said, I'm honored to be on the show. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll have you back on another time sometime, man. That'll be cool.
Anytime. Just say the word.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys. You have a good one. We'll talk soon.
All right.
You too. Take care.
Take it easy, everybody. We'll be back next week for Trash Sports Takes number 19. And we are out. Thank you, guys.
Peace.
See you guys.